Welcome.
Please don't.
Welcome to TRC Podcast, a bi-weekly... Nope. Alright, let me get back into the groove. Welcome to TRC Podcast, a video games podcast where we try... Are we a bi-weekly video games? Okay, I got it.
If you take a week off...
Fuck, I got it. Welcome to TRC Podcast, a video games podcast.
That is what we are.
Where we try to bring the past and present together through bi-weekly examinations of news and retros on older games. I'm one of your hosts, Tristan Jung.
And I'm your other host, Albert Corson.
Welcome to episode 7, guys. I know we took a month off, but we're back. The news, though, we're only gonna go back for 2 weeks because we didn't want to do too much of old stuff.
I mean, let's be honest. Other than E3 news, which everyone's heard about at this point, there's not much post E3 news because everyone does their, unless you're Nintendo, apparently, which like 2 weeks after is like BT Dubs here or something. But yeah.
What was your favorite thing at E3?
What was my favorite thing at E3? I mean, define favorite. You just have to choose one. Biggest surprise. How about biggest surprise?
Okay, biggest surprise.
It's easy. It was a lot of people's. But Mario Cross Rabbids. We gave that game shit. That game looks amazing.
Probably one of the best games at E3.
Probably one of the best games at E3.
Dude, the director cried. That's
true, but so did a lot of Ubisoft people cried. Okay. Alright, so biggest surprise was Mario Rabbids. I know you were hyped when Monster Hunter came out at Sony.
Oh man. What the fuck? 0 leaks, surprise reveal. My friend and I, we're just like shitting bricks.
No, Shadow of the Colossus too. They were just like, oh, right after that, here's something else you guys have never heard of.
Yeah, but then the rest of their show is garbage, so I don't know.
Yeah, they kind of blew their load a little early. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were kind of hyped for God of War, which I can understand why. Spider-Man 2, people are interested about, but meh. Best thing, dude, Odyssey. It's gotta be Odyssey.
I don't know, I just don't feel it. I'm kind of excited for the game, but not like, oh man, I can't wait excited.
I'm pretty I can't wait excited. Mainly, maybe if you didn't just watch the E3 trailer, but you watched the Treehouse interviews.
Yeah.
That got it hyped. And, like, the people who played it that were like, I almost cried when they said I had to stop playing after my 10-minute demo. They're like, please, don't do this to me. Don't make me stop playing this game. But, alas, they had to stop playing the game. I thought everyone had a pretty strong showing with the exception of maybe Bethesda and kind of E3.
Oh,
but the big three had a really strong showing, and Ubisoft had a really great showing, which really made me happy because they usually get pretty pooped on at E3. So I liked E3 this year. It was good.
All right, we digress.
Your opinion. Are we not doing your opinion? Your opinions don't matter? Or
my opinions don't matter. No, I mean, I agree on Mario Cross Rabbids. That was my biggest surprise as well. What am I most excited about? Nothing.
Nothing. Well, you gotta choose something. Even if at a scale of 5, the highest thing's at a 1, that's still the most excited thing.
Oh, I know what I'm excited for. I don't think they even showed it. But Cuphead, please, just come out. I want to play that fucking game. It's been years. It's been 9 years.
Dude, I thought you were going to meme me. I thought you were going to say Skyrim.
Albert, I just want to play Skyrim.
Dude, I'm going to buy that for my Switch.
Oh,
I'm not even guilty about it.
Why?
Alright. You know what? It's enough, Todd Howard. Let's go into the news.
Alright. I'll let you take the first one, because I don't really know much about this.
Alright, so here's the news that comes near and dear to my heart. Creative Assembly is announcing a Total War Saga spin-off series, which essentially is instead of making kind of the big so kind of what a lot of complaints now, I'll give a background, is they're doing their Total War Warhammer, which is their fantasy, but they're doing 2 releases in a row. So last year the original came out, and then this year Total Warhammer 2 is coming out in September.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people who like the original historical games are like, I hate you, Creative Assembly. You've totally strayed from what you used to do with your cool historical games. And this is like their chill out. We're going to make this thing called Total War Saga spin-offs, which are not full-size like Empire Total War, Rome 2 Total Wars, but they're like smaller scale. So what I think of, they gave a good example in this article where the director said, think of Shogun 2 Total War Fall of the Samurai. And that's probably my favorite Total War DLC. It's honestly one of my favorite, like, just even if it was like standalone. I think it was standalone. Total Wars of all time. I thought it was great having the guns and the samurai in the same sort of era. But another one I can think of is Napoleon Total War, and kind of how that set up those. Or if you remember back to Medieval 2, they had a campaign in England, I think, is what it was. So essentially those smaller scale games, I don't know if they'll be $60. They honestly probably will, knowing Sega. But that's kind of their answer for those historical fans that are looking for Total War.
Good on them for, listening to their fans and actually taking action.
Yeah, I feel like it was hitting a breaking point, especially with the release of Total War 2 coming out. One thing I noticed is all the videos they were releasing on their YouTube channel were getting down likes, not for the game, but from the historical fans who were like, you guys have totally changed who you are.
Yeah.
And like their like-dislike ratio would sit at like 50%. And so I think it finally hit that breaking point, that threshold where they were like, okay, we need to say something. They probably have something in the works that they're finally confident to announce this, and then it won't be too far out. Once again, I wonder just the scale of these games.
Yep. How big was Fall of the Samurai? Like, how long was it?
It was the exact same campaign map, which made it ideal, but it added like whole new units and everything, which was made, and it added like a new scenario essentially, because it took place in the Boshin War, which was like the pivotal point in Japan where it was essentially the last group of samurai that were against the Western countries coming into the country. So, I mean, another one is put like Napoleon Total War, where it was just the France part of Europe rather than the whole world of Empire.
Yep.
And those were $20 DLCs, but I don't know, because it obviously makes sense for those to be $20 because the base game was, the engine and all the units were already there, so they didn't have to do, like, I mean, obviously a lot of work still, but they didn't have to put in the full development work of a new game, unlike these where it seems like they'll still be putting in a lot of work into like a new game. So it might be like $60, but depending on how they do it, I mean, Napoleon was definitely a lot smaller scale than Empire, but Fall of the Samurai was still the whole map of Japan, so it was literally the same size as the base Shogun 2 game.
I see.
It wasn't like any different in that aspect.
Huh.
Yeah, but I look forward to this because I like all the Total War games. I don't care if they release the historical, the non-historical, but exploring both realistic and non-realistic is a good not turning point, but I guess back to its roots sort of ordeal for Creative Assembly.
Yeah, hopefully it pans out. Hopefully they don't release unfinished garbage.
It's not necessarily unfinished with Creative Assembly, it's buggy messes.
Okay.
Like really buggy messes with horrible AI. Has been their trend for a little bit, which I hope they buck.
Alright. I guess next up we have 2. Should I just group them, kind of?
Just group them, yeah.
Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft's cash cow, first off, is getting an anime series. This seems to be an ongoing trend in the video games industry right now. Right? You just drop anime.
Slap an anime on. I mean, if Castlevania can do it, then, I mean, if Overwatch with that Doomfist trailer can do it, just slap an Assassin's Creed on it.
I mean, yeah, that world has a lot of story around it, so I'm pretty sure they can pump out something. There's no real details about it yet. We don't know if it's gonna be on Netflix or not, if it's gonna be like a one-off thing or an actual series. But Adi Shankar, who's the producer of the Castlevania series on Netflix posted about it, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and I wonder if this one's going to be on Netflix as well, and definitely a big telling of how good this might be is how well the Castlevania one is received in the public.
Yeah, hopefully that one does well. I try really hard to like Castlevania, but I just can't get into it. And if there's an anime...
Yeah, but you hate anime too.
Oh, well...
Well, some anime. Or, let's put it, you only like specific anime. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting how they take this, if they're going to do the 2 time zone things, right? If they're going to do the modern day and the Animus as well.
Yep.
But, yeah, I think they'll have to do both. Otherwise, it just might be too linear. You know what would be cool is if they did like an Ezio thing, where he was the main character. They went back to that one. That would be cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people would be down for that, because Ezio is like the popular character in the series, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he had a trilogy after him. None of the other characters have had more than one game after them, if I recall correctly. So, yeah.
Next, Assassin's Creed Origins was revealed at E3, and it's taking after the trending open world genre after Breath of the Wild. It actually looks kind of like that game, right?
Except for that weird freaking arrow thing. I still can't remember that at the end of the trailer.
Yeah.
Where he curves the arrow. I was like, dude, is he like Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy or something? Like
Sniper Elite, man.
Yeah, I know, Sniper Elite. Like, that was weird. And then like the weird like bird thing that could like spot enemies. I was like, I don't
they got earpieces, man. A lot of open world games have been criticized for being a little too open world. Like Final Fantasy 15, maybe even Breath of the Wild. I'm not sure if people had that issue.
I had the general aspect of that game was it was so, I mean, just exploration based that people were fine with the open world. And if you wanted to just like go point A to point B, obviously you could go ahead and do that. But I didn't hear too much criticism of that. I think it was more. I'll put it this: it was more praised on its open world design than it was criticized.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But back to this game, the director for Assassin's Creed Origins reassured fans that the world is actually not that big. Actually, I don't really know what to say, because he says it's not that big, but it's twice as big as some previous map. So,
as Black Flag, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never played Black Flag, so I don't know how big that world was.
I own it, but I played it roughly 30 minutes.
Okay.
But he does mention that he realizes that, like, the size of the world you're in doesn't really matter. It's how much stuff is inside.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
You don't want to just walk around empty spaces half the time.
You don't want to walk around empty spaces, but at the same time, you don't want to feel like it's too small where everything is cramped together. And it's just like left and right. You keep finding things. One game that I feel like I don't remember reading the reviews when the game first came out was Witcher 3. I thought that game suffered a little too much of too big of a world. And
oh, really?
It got uninteresting at points where, I mean, there were some great quests in that game, for sure, and obviously the story was amazing. Like, everything about that game was amazing, except for, like, sometimes the world got a little bland. Like, there'd be the question marks on the map, and it'd just be like, alright, kill this monster, take the thing. Alright, go here, kill this guy, take the thing. And then the monster, or the hunting quests, sometimes were like, I'm killing a griffin, I'm killing a necker, or whatever, I'm killing this, and it's like, it's kind of like, there's like a few gem quests in there that are like amazing to follow through, but then like some of them are just like really bland and repeaty, and it feels like grindy a little because the EXP in that game is kind of hard to come by.
I see. Is it like almost MMO feeling?
As in, can you kind of expand on that?
Just like doing random quests to grind, doing cookie cutter quests.
I mean, in the early game, not really, because there's enough story, but once you beat the game and you're kind of going into the expansions, and maybe if you're a little under-leveled, you might have to do that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but... I mean, it's a great game. It's amazing, but there was some... I don't know if it got hammered on that a little bit too... Or not enough, I guess. But that's what I got when I played through it. My 100-hour playthrough. But yeah. I don't want to strive too much away from Ass Creed. But...
I mean, I think the point is that there are enough examples of really good open world games that they, shouldn't fuck it up too much. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think, just essentially in a nut recap, I think, yep, I agree. Size of the world doesn't matter. It's how you play it to its strengths, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Let me grab into our bag, and let's take out our next article, which is the Super League Gaming, which has raised $15 million from an assortment of investors, including Nickelodeon, and essentially... Super League Gaming, I mean, they're another, I don't know how to, is there a term for this? Like a esports startup? Like,
I guess.
There's like the esports arena in like LA or something, right? That they do a bunch of tournaments at now. But this is another one of those, but it was founded in 2014, also in California, Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And it initially launched with Minecraft multiplayer events for kids. But now it's moving with all this big funding. It's moving into League of Legends, which interesting that Super League Gaming is the name and it does League of Legends. But I don't know. I think definitely hearing another, what's the word I'm looking for? Startup? I can't think of the name. I'll just call it startup. Startup that does esports focused things is definitely great for esports in general. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I used to get, butterflies when I read something like this. Just butterflies, not in my stomach. Just literally butterflies in my mailbox.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Because, it's like the start of something new, right? Like, this has never been done before. But now I feel like, it's just another startup, basically. And who knows what they'll do in, 3 or 4 years. The fact that they're only invested in Minecraft and League of Legends kind of worries me.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about it a little, but Dota 2 is moving to their new thing where you can qualify as a major if you have a certain prize pool. So potentially these guys could have enough funding and start up a Dota thing too.
Mm-hmm. But I believe Valve has to say yes, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'm a major now, I have $1 million.
Yeah. Because also I think it's, what was it, $500,000 or something? Mm-hmm. And then if you qualify Valve, they match for another $500,000. So, but I feel like with that coming out, these guys might make a push for something like that, just to get out of the scene or get their name out. Essentially become, because the United States doesn't have too many of those esports things. I mean, we used to have MLG, but that kind of disappeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Europe has so many things like ESL and what's the other one?
DreamHack
as well. DreamHack, yeah. So yeah, North America doesn't have too much going on in that regard.
Super League Gaming, if you're listening and you need a Dota 2 TO, you're listening to one right now.
Yeah, so cool news coming in the world of esports.
Next, as a Destiny 1 player, I am always scrambling for Destiny 2 news. And recently, it's been revealed that the Destiny 2 weapons and armor stats won't be randomly rolled, which I'm totally okay with, but it sounds like there's arguments on both sides. Now, this does not mean that the weapons that the enemies drop are, set. It's just the stats. So, just makes things a little bit easier to grind, I guess.
Yeah, and, I mean, I guess we could go into kind of what the article discusses in terms of strengths and weaknesses is it's obviously the hardcore fan base who want to dedicate their time into this game to gathering the best gear are like... Mm-hmm. You're removing my incentive to play the game now that I know I can. If I get the drop, then it'll be the same stat as some guy who might just have gotten lucky and doesn't dedicate his life to this game.
Right.
But I feel that I mean, from a pure marketing perspective of Bungie, I mean, obviously you want new players to get into your game faster, so it's a win for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, honestly, should PvP really be about who has more time to play the game or who has more skill, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like they should have changed PvP a little. I'm sure this has been brought up. I rarely go to their subreddit, but like, you know, maybe have all the weapons available for PvP and only you get like skins as drops or something like that. So there's something.
That's how Guild Wars 2 does their PvP and has always done their PvP is you can make a character at any time that's a max level. That's called a PvP character.
Yep.
And then all the weapons you choose have the exact same stats. And then the only thing you get for playing is getting like cosmetics and stuff and making your guy look cool and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's totally an option.
Yeah.
Like, Destiny 1 already had a lot of microtransactions, so, you know, why not make some of that into PvP rewards?
Yeah, exactly. I don't see what the big fuss about this. Obviously, the people who... I mean, it happens with everything, right? The people who have already put a lot of time into the game and want to put in a lot of time are going to argue that it's something that makes the game more, put in quotes, casual, then they're not going to like it. But that's a very small minority of the... I mean, it's their most hardcore fan base, but once again, you can't... A game won't survive if just the hardcore people play it. You need to have somewhat more mass appeal to have your game have longevity to it.
Right.
So, yeah. Good change. I like it. Yeah, I like it. I like this change.
All right, Albert, I'll leave the biggest one for you.
Oh, God. Okay. So, rather than giving this at E3, Nintendo, just 3 weeks later, is like, you know what, guys? We're going to drop a bomb on them, on our fans. And they have announced, and we predicted this as well, and Eurogamer had an article on this, I think the leak a couple months ago, that the SNES Classic has been announced and will be releasing on September 29th for $79. And rather than one controller from the NES Classic, it will have 2 controllers. Another difference is that rather than 30 games, I think it was, for the NES Classic, it'll have 21 games. But, or I guess we'll get into this later. You want to go through those list of games?
Oh, God,
read them off really quick.
As a 16-bit gaming connoisseur, this is a wet dream. We have Donkey Kong Country 1, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3 or 6, F-Zero, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, Link to the Past, Mega Man X 1, Secret of Mana, Star Fox, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Fighting. Is that correct? That feels like that's a wrong title. Super Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, and Star Fox 2, game that has not been released before. I think it's been shelved for like 20-something years, right?
Yeah. So the story behind this game, I listened to I read an article and I listened to another podcast about this where, so this game was developed towards the end of the life cycle of the SNES, and it was about 95% complete when Nintendo told the team developing it to just can it. Essentially just, we're canceling this game. But, although they canceled it for the public, Nintendo told the studio, finish this game, because it was just almost there. And although a lot of people thought that the game was canceled due to the bad quality, it was actually because what was it? I'm gonna get so wrecked on this by our listeners. Was it the Genesis? It was essentially Sega's next console was coming out, and it looked a lot better in terms of 3D, like this, like what do you want to call it, like vector 3D graphics? I don't know how to describe it. Than Star Fox 2. So Nintendo, in terms of marketing, if they release this game right when their console was releasing, then Sega's gonna eat that up and be like, look at this weak Nintendo shit right here. Look what our console can do. And then, so that's why they canceled it. Was because it didn't compare graphically. But now, obviously more than 20 years in the future, graphics have way surpassed any of those. So they're fine releasing this game that they completed.
Good news. They're gonna make more than 10 of these this time.
Oh, really? They're making 11?
Yeah, they're making 11 of these this time. I'm sure this joke has been made a billion times, but, fuck you. We'll make it
But
here
Nintendo
again.
not learn... Everyone jokes either Nintendo is mentally retarded and they don't know how to control stocks, or they're freaking masterminds.
Uh-huh.
In terms of their marketing. In terms of these things, it's always in demand. Everyone's trying to buy one. It's always hype, hype, hype. I need to get one if I see one at the store. Hype, hype, hype. There's not enough stock. I need to get one. I might never get one, right?
Right.
So either they're geniuses or they don't know how to run a business.
Maybe a bit of both.
Maybe both.
I mean, even Apple products get super hype, but at least, maybe after a month or two, you can find them in stores.
I mean, like, you think about it, right? And it's so many people were like, I want to buy your NES Classic. And what business would be like, we could probably sell another 500,000 units of these. And they're like, nah, it was limited. We're not going to make it anymore.
Hey, man, Virtual Console on the Switch, please. If they release that, I'm okay with them not making more of these
I'm
things.
okay with not buying this because I'll just buy all these on the go.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be glorious. But the price is a little more. Mm-hmm. And I think I know, but they know, Nintendo knows that they can, that Star Fox 2 unannounced, that's their, like, hidden gem, right? Mm-hmm. They could charge $90. They could maybe even charge $100 for this, and people would still buy it just for that unannounced game.
I mean, you know why it's $80, right?
2 controllers.
They added 2 feet of cords to the controllers. That's all the material.
Gosh. All the raw material to make the controllers. Yeah. So I guess another thing, minor thing to bring up is that apparently there have been emulators for some, like, leaked stuff for Star Fox 2.
Yep.
But the creator of that, the director of the game, has said that is not completed at all. Like, I've played them before. That's not. He's like, I want you to experience the actual game, so please buy it, and play the actual experience how it was meant to be played.
Man, I hope they actually release it on Virtual Console instead of just on this thing.
I don't think they will, man.
Oh
if so, it'll be like a year later. Think of, like, back to what we talked about last time about Modern Warfare.
Yep.
Remastered.
Yep.
They're finally releasing that game standalone for, like, what is it, $40 or something?
Mm-hmm.
But it is standalone. But it's a year later. So it's going to be that, like, they're not going to announce that it'll be out a year later, but maybe a year later it will come out so they can sell as many of these things as they can. Not that I think they're going to need that to sell these things out, but Nintendo does what Nintendo does.
Hot take, just buy a used SNES.
Oh, I still have mine.
There you go. SNES. There you go. Free.
But it doesn't scale up to, like, new TVs with the HDMI ports. So
I guess so.
That's the advantage over this thing. I guess we'll bring up the last thing. Last thing we'll say about this. Everyone's talking about, where is Chrono Trigger? Where is it?
Yep.
And I think I heard the licensing. I heard rumors about licensing, getting all the music and getting all the things together. Too expensive to include in this game. Or in this, do we call it a console?
Wait, somehow they got Final Fantasy 3, but not Chrono Trigger?
Well, I mean, that was, I don't know how that worked out. Yeah, I don't know. People just brought up pricing potentially as a thing.
Yeah, because Nintendo's definitely taking a loss on this right now. So that was the that was the collective. I don't even know what part of the podcast we're on.
That was the news. The collective. I guess it was the collective because we collect the news. Okay,
yeah.
I see.
And now we're on to the retrospective, where I give Metacritic scores to Albert, and he tries to guess what game I'm talking about.
Please don't do this to me.
So today, I bring a game to you from 2006. I'm looking up the date because I forgot to write it down.
2006.
No, 2007. I lied. We're almost at the 10-year anniversary. August 21st, 2007.
August 21st, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm thinking. All right.
It came out on PC and Xbox 360 originally.
All right, I think I already know what it is. Is it the orange box?
No.
Oh, dang.
Orange Box is not one game, sir. It's a collection of games.
We
already talked about Portal.
We already talked about, okay. All right. Keep going.
And it got 96 on Metacritic.
Oh God. All right. Oh, but it can't be. But can it? Can I guess? Am I allowed to guess more?
You can guess.
Is it GTA 4?
No, it is not GTA 4. Although I have GTA 5 in my notes. That's not really a hint. That's actually not a hint at all. I just have the...
It's one of the highest rated games of all time.
Uh-huh. And you don't even know what it is.
And it's not Half-Life 2 Episode 2, but it came in 2007. Okay, keep going.
All right.
I'm waiting for that sound clip.
You want the sound clip?
Okay. This is BioShock 1.
Yep. BioShock 1.
Welcome to the card. Oh, I forget what he even said. I feel sad that I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either.
That's the tune from this is from though.
BioShock 1, released August 21st, 2007, developed by 2K Boston, 2K Australia, and published by 2K Games, is a first-person shooter video game made by creative mind Ken Levine. First thoughts?
What a guy.
What a guy.
First thoughts. This game, as a kid, because I was like, I don't remember, I was like early teens, like not even teens, like 10 or something.
Huh?
Okay, not that. I was like early teens. I think I was like 13 or 14 when I first played this game. I'm not good with scary things. Mm-hmm. This game scared the shit out of me. Like, yeah. This game was spooky as hell for me. But
this is very eerie.
Very eerie. I mean, it makes sense with the setting. I mean, it's perfect. Like a dystopian underwater city. Yeah.
Yep.
But for other first thoughts, because I don't want that just to be the only first thought. This game had like smarts to it. It was like the first game with smarts to it. Like, and by I mean that, like, if there's a person in the water and you had the electricity plasmid and you shot the water, it zapped them. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then this game was pretty crazy when it was released for the graphics, for how good its graphics were. Like, amazing. Mm-hmm. And you had to have a pretty good computer to play it. And then the last thing was that, like, the first experience of playing the opening scene where you crash into the water, and then it just gives you control of the game, and you're just like, what? This isn't a cutscene still? Like, amazing.
Yeah. For me, I played this really, really late. I played this maybe a year before Infinite came out. Maybe 2 years before Infinite came out. Mm-hmm. And even then, it was like, I'd never watched videos on it before. It was like fucking mind-blowing. Just like all the choices you had. I would say the gunplay is not as good as other games, but
I mean, you played it a little dated. You did play it a little late. I played it again in 2014. Is when I last played this game. Have you played the remastered edition yet?
No. Is it that much different?
I mean, it looks better, I would assume, but I don't know about anything else. Probably just increased to run on modern platforms, like high resolutions, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's not. It's very scripted. I think the game, even if they provide a lot of quote unquote freedom, there's a lot of parts in the game that are basically just like, Ken definitely meant for you to do this thing and then that thing. But even then, it's like very well thought out, well done. Fighting big daddies give me nightmares all the time. Mm-hmm. And the dentist scene scared the shit out of me. Oh God.
So I mean,
I would say if there's one thing this game has probably no other game has come close to reaching it is creating a sense of atmosphere in this game. In terms of your environment, your surrounding, the sound design, the visual design. It immerses you so well into the game, and that's why, like, for me, it was so scary at the time was because it was so realistic in how well it presented its world.
Yeah, it's very anxiety-inducing. It's very, like, claustrophobic, narrow corridors.
Exactly.
If you somehow break out the window, you're literally at the bottom of the ocean. So, like, there's no escape. I think that's what really made it feel scary.
Yeah, and then just everything feels so, I don't know, like immersive. I just keep using that word, but it's
brown.
Like when
Everything's
brown.
brown.
I'm just going back to I'm putting these game standards to kind of 2007 games. Like when you shoot guns, like the tip of your gun has smoke coming out and everything like that. And when you shoot people, their bodies flinch where you shoot them, and like you shoot them in the masks, and their masks come off and everything. It presented kind of the realism in a video game. So I can't think of the words right now, but I almost want to cut this out like the past 10 seconds while I'm thinking about this. Is that fireworks?
No, welcome to San Francisco.
What was that?
I don't know. I'm just shrugging.
But essentially the how they constructed the world and how they presented it was just masterful. And that's not even getting into like the story or anything that we have talked about.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden.
Yeah, what should we start with first? I got a lot of sections. I got development, story, gameplay, technology, music, reception, movie.
Give us a little bit on the development. Let's get a little how this game was made.
Yeah. So the game came out in 2007, like I said. But initial planning started in 2002. Very long time ago. And Ken Levine, who is the creative lead, was kind of fascinated by the ideas of objectivism. Do you know what that is?
You can describe it.
It's basically the thought ideal that if you make choices based on your selfish desires, everything will be okay.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of his kind of inspiration came from Ayn Rand, who wrote a book that I wrote down, but I cannot find it here. She wrote
Take your time.
Yep. Let's look it up.
Wait, Ayn Rand or what was the name?
Ayn Rand?
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, Ayn Rand. She wrote Atlas Shrugged. There you go. And that was kind of all about objectivism. And he was kind of taken by that. So a lot of his previous games, like System Shock 2, kind of had those themes as well. And after System Shock 2, which actually did not do too well, Ken thought of making a gameplay mechanic based on 3 forces. It's kind of getting really weird. Drones that would carry a desirable resource, protectors that would guard the drones, and harvesters that would attempt to take the resource from the drones. And you can probably tell that these kind of are analogous to the Little Sisters, the Big Daddies, and the Splicers.
Or yourself. Almost.
Or yourself. And that's what they want to work with. They actually had no setting or gameplay back then. It was just the high-level idea. And they made their first demo in 2002. The game was set in a space station back then with monsters. It was kind of different. And they kept working on it, playtesting. They changed it at some point to a World War II Nazi lab. Yeah.
Okay.
It set in 21st century, who find this hidden lab, and there's like genetic experiments in there, blah, blah, blah. And that changed again to kind of what we have now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it came from the Rockefeller Center near New York City, or in New York City. Mm-hmm. And that kind of cemented what Ken wanted to do. and that's where he got his idea on Andrew Ryan, how Rapture is set up.
Yeah, I love that. I love the what I would say it's 1920s style of architecture. It's great. It feels awesome to just explore, and how well they carried that concept throughout the game.
Yeah. And at this point, things started to get a little out of hand. There's a lot of internal conflict within the team. Scope got huge for the game. It started with 6 people when they started, and for the final game, they had 60 people work on the game. And like a lot of things changed. Ken actually did not want multiple endings to the game. He only wanted one ending. But 2K was like, no, you need multiple endings. So they made him change it. Like there was a lot of creative dispute. And in the end, they ended up spending 5 years and $25 million. But, did well.
I forgot, were the endings based on if you harvested the little... That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
If you harvested, then you get the bad ending. And then if you saved them, you got the good ending.
Yep. Do you remember the moral choices on why you want to do either or?
I do not remember the in-game choices for why you did it.
Yeah, basically you got different amount of Adam, depending on what you did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But you want that good ending.
Oh,
it's hilarious.
I thought you were gonna say you want that good Adam. Just suck it all out.
Can I spoil? Is it 10 years? Can I spoil?
It's 10 years in next month. But
next month.
Sure. Go
all
for
right,
it. Whatever.
Okay, you want the good one because in the end, the girls stab the guy, the golden man, with syringes to death, and it's very pleasing to watch. So Tristan, would you kindly please continue?
That's all for game development.
Okay. You want to talk a little about the story? I'm going to be honest. I don't remember like a lot of the story, a lot of the main talking points, but there are definitely many keystone moments that happen in the game that everyone remembers. Like when Andrew Ryan beats to death, we beat him to death with a golf club.
Yep.
When the "Would you kindly," and you find out that Atlas is actually I forget his name. He's like the gangster essentially. And he's been Fontaine. Yep. And essentially he's been misleading you the whole game, and you're actually a brainwashed dude, and all that good plot twisty action, I guess is how to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of creepy. This game takes a similar page from Metal Gear Solid 2, where playing the game is basically a meta commentary on the game itself. Right?
Yeah, agreed.
A lot of the story, I don't know. Let me do a quick brief on the story. Set in 1960, like Albert said before, a lot of inspirations from the 20s and 30s. This rich man named Andrew Ryan was sick of government, was sick of taxes and all that shit.
Yeah, so let me butt in and give my favorite quote of kind of written on all the walls of Rapture, where it's "No gods, no kings, only man."
Exactly. There's no one above anyone else, except that's never how it works out. Yep. So he literally just went to the bottom of the fucking ocean and built a city there. he's like
pretty
fuck
much.
Y'all.
I'm out of here.
And it's supposed to be like a utopia, and there's a lot of there's no moral or ethics in Rapture. It's called Rapture, by the way. So there's a lot of advances in science and technology, which makes sense. Yeah, plasmids, which are basically just fucked up drugs that give you superpowers. They to actually make these plasmids, though, you need Adam. And to get Adam, you need to what do? You need to basically attach slugs to little girls, little orphan girls, and
orphan girls.
Yeah, and then just kill them, basically.
Yep. Yep.
It's kind of fucked up, but it's what happens when there's no government, right? Just do what you want.
Yep. Just do what you want. Live at the bottom of the ocean. Do what you want.
And eventually, as always, there were class distinctions. The upper class, lower class, and there were revolts, fights, wars. And you're playing as Jack, who, crashes.
Essentially, after most of the main conflicts have subsided, and there's essentially just small factions of people remaining in the city.
I forget who the Splicers are. They're basically Ryan's army. Like really jacked up people on drugs. So a lot of drugs in this game. A lot of drugs in the other games too.
Was it this game that was banned from like Australia or something for drug use? No, it must have not. I mean, it was published by 2K Australia.
Yeah,
so maybe not.
Definitely not.
But
so you're playing as Jack, who happens to be in a plane crash that crashed oh so conveniently near the the elevator that goes down to Rapture, and you kind of uncover what's happening there.
The secrets that lie within.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can talk a little about more gameplay stuff. What do you think about the hacking? Honestly,
oh my God.
I was fine with it. Lots of people didn't like it, like the pipe puzzles, right?
Yeah.
I was fine with it. I thought it was a good... I mean, it did get a little repetitive towards the end, as you do if you have a puzzle that's like the same type of hack every time. But I thought it was a good break away from like the really high anxiety, stress, and fights in that game, like fighting enemies and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was fine for the most part.
I did not like it at all. To be honest, I like Fallout hacking more than BioShock hacking.
You like clicking random words.
Hey man, you're supposed to think a little bit.
I mean, eventually in that game you can just exit the computer and then go back and then get all your attempts back. But
I guess so. In BioShock, it just explodes, right? I forget what happens.
I forget what happens. Yeah. All I know is like the little machine gun turrets, the little not turrets, but like the little helicopter drone guys.
Mm-hmm.
I loved having like 2 or 3 of them, like an army of them following me. That was fun.
Those gave me so much anxiety, like early game. Man, they fuck you up. I just hate turrets in that game.
That game, like when you first get that wrench, right, and like you just gotta beat people in the face with a wrench.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's like very visceral and scary.
It's funny because in all the interviews I've read, I haven't read all of them, but in most of them, they never bring up Half-Life. When I was playing it, I was like, oh, wrench, it's kind of like the crowbar, lol. But,
yeah.
I guess
I like it when
just
you can
happened to be.
When you can freeze the enemies and then you just walk up to them and like beat them to death with a wrench. That was always satisfying to kill those annoying splicers.
How about just the shooting mechanics? I guess I played it a little late, so I didn't like it too much.
I thought it was really cool in terms of the ammo types. I thought that was really innovative and really fun. And some of them were like really, what's the word? I mean, scarce, I guess. Rare.
Yep.
And in the fact that, like, you didn't want to, and you had to know, like, I need to use my armor-piercing bullets on these, I need to use this type of bullets on these, that you couldn't just go willy-nilly, and that money was actually quite valuable in that game, too, for buying from the vending machines, getting extra ammo and stuff like that.
Yep. Were upgrades used by money, or was that using Atom? I forget.
I don't remember exactly either. I don't know if you want to look that up.
But there were gun upgrades, if I remember correctly, that you bought at the vending machines.
Yep. And I just remembered the quote, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the circus of value.
I think Ken Levine voiced that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that a little trivia you got?
Yeah. Did you use plasmids at all?
I was not a heavy user of plasmids. I think I mainly just stuck with like the electro and the fire. Other than that, like I just like the shooty mainly.
Yeah, that's basically
I mean, that was
what
the same thing. You could consider it like a waste of part of the mechanic of the game, but if I compare this to like the sequel, I guess I don't know if we call it sequel or just the next game in the series, BioShock Infinite.
Uh-huh.
I didn't use the not plasmas in that game. What were they called?
The carnival superpowers.
Sure.
The things in the bottle potions.
Vigors.
Yes,
I didn't use the vigors that much in that game either. So, I mainly just used essentially for like really sticky scenarios when I like died and I had to reload and stuff. Like, I think that is smarter.
Just walking in the rain, getting soaking wet, torture in my heart by trying to forget.
Let's see what else I have under gameplay. Oh, there was a camera. I think everyone forgets that.
I literally, I think I forgot about that until the very end of the game.
Uh-huh.
Like, when I was like, you can do this?
It's kind of a weirdly tacked on thing, I feel.
I don't know.
It's like maybe they had it at the beginning, and they're like, oh shit, we forgot to take this out. Oh well. And they
just add stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, yeah.
And it gave, like, a damage boost, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like scanning an, like, quote unquote, scanning an enemy.
Yep. I think it also told you, like, the weaknesses as well. It's kind of weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe it's to add on to the, quote unquote, RPG elements of the game. I really don't think this game is an RPG.
Yeah. I think they also gave you a buff, right? If you got, like, to a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would buff one of your plasmids? I'm not sure. Something. You know what really scared me that game is when you, like, healed yourself or whatever. Or is it not when you healed yourself? Is when you used a thing that replenished your, what was it called? Your Eve?
Yep.
And you, like, stuck a thing into your arm.
Yep.
I was like, oh, God, I don't like needles.
There's a lot of creepy animations in BioShock games.
There are.
Just very, I don't know, icky.
Visceral, almost, is what you, like, a good way to describe it in my mind.
Like in Infinite, when you drink the fire vigor and your fucking hands catch on fire and like all your skin melts
like,
off.
I didn't need to see that. Some of the boss fights in this game are also creepy. Like I remember in like it's one of the first boss. It's like in the medical facility or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like that guy with the hooks for hands.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is freaking me out. I don't want to fight this guy. He's scary. Or maybe I'm just a big wuss. I don't know.
No, there were a lot of fucked up characters in the game, I feel. It's very...
And I feel like that just added more to kind of the backstory of what's happened in this place.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to, like, just the weird, I guess, not weird, but just the atmosphere. I keep bringing up that word. I think I've been using it too much, but, yeah.
Speaking of the atmosphere and story, let me finish up on what happened. So you go down to Rapture and you talk to Atlas. Atlas is he's like the leader of the resistance, basically.
Yep. Against Andrew Ryan.
Against Andrew Ryan, the mastermind. And you end up eventually going to Andrew Ryan's house. And Andrew Ryan's like, wait, was it? He knew of Atlas's plan. And basically the twist is that Atlas, the guy you've been talking to the entire time, is actually Fontaine. And Fontaine is...
He's essentially a leader of another faction in the Civil War that happened.
Yes, exactly.
Rapture.
And the character you're playing has basically been brainwashed to listen to every order, depending on if someone says the magic words, which are...
Would you kindly?
Yeah. And I think that's when a lot of the brain fuck happened, because you don't realize it when you're playing the game, and then it just fucking hits you like a truck.
Yeah, if you replay this game, you get so much value from knowing that little secret.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if he just tells you, like, would you kindly grab that wrench over there? Like, that's just a normal sentence. But then you play the game again and you're like,
fuck you, Fontaine.
Motherfucker. That motherfucker.
And then eventually you go and kill Fontaine. But back to the meta commentary I was talking about earlier, basically showing you that you have no free will in video games because you are playing it as the developer intended you to.
Ooh, some meta commentary there, man.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. Like BioShock is, it's a fairly linear game.
Yeah, for sure.
The maps are kind of big, but like you're.
I think the
following
freedom
one order
comes
after
from
next.
how you. The freedom comes from the combat. How do you want to approach the fight? Essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the freedom comes in. If you want to hear Albert's last shit your pants moment that he remembers, it's the artist guy.
Yep.
He's like a sculptor guy.
Yep.
And in one of the zones, there's like the people who like the masks who are like look like they're made of plaster.
Mm-hmm.
But then they come to life and they attack you, and you're like, oh god! And then if you play that level, you just shoot every statue you see, because you don't know if it's like a guy who's gonna come attack you. Yeah, that's my last shit your pants moment from that game that I remember.
A lot of fucked up moments.
It's definitely the scariest at the start, because like you barely have any weapons. Once you start getting weapons, you're like, alright, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, but
I've already kicked all the asses.
well, I mean, except for Big Daddies, they kick your ass if they want to.
Oh
They
god.
got that big drill.
And
And have you died to one where like it like goes to like a cutscene thing and like they drill you in like the stomach and like, yeah, I get
I mean, I don't know if you remember the trailer for this game. But
yeah,
the
you die
trailer
at the
is
end of
pretty
it like that.
fucking nasty.
Yeah, and then you just like I can just still remember that noise in my head when you hear like, and then you hear the Big Daddy go like, and you're like, uh-oh.
Escape, quit, return to desktop.
Exactly.
Yeah, so...
Right, what do you got that, if you have anything to close us out a little, start closing us out on this.
Yeah, so Ken Levine said, right when they started developing, what they want to do is redefine what it means to be a first-person shooter. Our goal is to put a stake in the heart of all those cliches you've been playing for years in the first-person shooters, the linear corridors, the very static environments, and the cookie-cutter AIs. And my question to you is, did that happen?
Okay, there is something that you just brought up that I didn't realize, and that's the AI.
Uh-huh.
The AI in this game was very smart. It would move around things, it would hide behind cover.
Mm-hmm.
It was very innovative for the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of them, like the enemies could like jump on hooks and stuff, and they jump around them, like above you.
Yep.
The AI definitely did. I'm trying to think if I wouldn't say...
My question is, did it pave the way? Like, do you feel first-person shooters have changed because of this game? Or did they just not give a fuck?
I'm gonna say no. I'm honestly... I don't know what I'm gonna say no. Because I'm gonna think, like, the next game that I felt in terms of gunplay and first-person shooter mechanics that felt like this game was Ken Levine's next game, BioShock Infinite. Well, I mean, I guess BioShock 2 came before that, but I mean, like, I kind of played... when I replayed it, the next game that I played a few years after, when Infinite came out.
I mean, BioShock 2 wasn't even made by Ken Levine.
Exactly. So, I mean, in one way, I think, although he didn't maybe accomplish his goal, he definitely made a shooter experience that was different than other games and made it more fun and unique.
Yep.
And I mean, this game came out right before, I mean, I guess it's a little early. I'm thinking like when the zombie shooter craze kind of came out.
Mm-hmm.
That was like 2009, right?
Yep.
Yeah, around that time. But even if he didn't accomplish goal, he definitely showed a different way to run a shooter game and how it doesn't need to be fast-paced action. It can be slow, methodical, plan out your everything, which added to that tension that you... That's a word that I hadn't brought up that definitely fits this game. Tension. There always feels to be tension in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with you. His intentions were very good. But look at shooters now. Look at Battlefield. Look at Call of Duty. A lot of them don't do the same world building. I feel like games are pushing more for like the bigger maps, bigger teams, faster shooting, all that. And Ken just does his own thing off to the side. Not to say it's bad.
And I go back to the last, and I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna narrow this down to like first person shooter game that has only come close to this game in terms of building a world. Is like, oh, this isn't even first person shooter though. I guess it's like Mass Effect,
right?
In terms of developing a world. And then the next game, as I said, I'll go back, was like how going to BioShock Infinite and how he did the exact same thing with the City of Columbia that he did with Rapture in terms of building a whole new sort of atmosphere and environment and story. Like, you can tell that there was a story behind this world before you got here from playing it.
I mean, to some extent, one could even argue that it doesn't need to be a first-person shooter. If BioShock was like a third-person shooter, maybe just a stealth game, like, I think it would have done equally well.
Yeah, I just wanted to limit it because there are a lot of games that do establish good stories, but they're not first-person shooters. And I think it is harder to establish almost a good story in a first-person, like an environment in a first-person shooter for some reason.
Little tidbits. Game was made on Unreal Engine 2.5.
Okay.
Did you know that Irrational made SWAT 4?
I did not, actually.
And that's how they had experience with the engine.
Oh, by the way, RIP Irrational.
I know. BioShock contains both licensed music and original score, mostly from the 40s and 50s.
Yep.
And what do we have? Oh, reception. I mean, we've been gushing about this game for the past half hour. That was basically the same reception from around the world, basically. It won BAFTAs, awards from a bunch of different places. Considered one of the greatest video games of all time, and a demonstration of video game as an art form. So,
I mean, I think back to it, and it obviously is probably due a lot to that. I haven't played it in a couple of years, but I can't remember easily off the top of my head something that I disliked about this game. Other than that, it was scary and it made me shit my pants, and I don't like that.
I don't like that at all.
I can't think of any bad mechanic that this game did. I mean, obviously, like, there's people that I don't like first-person shooters, so I don't like this game, which is totally valid, but for someone who loves these types of games, I couldn't think of any fatal flaw that just irked me throughout the game, or even, like, minor ones.
Yep, that makes sense.
And the progression of the story was actually, this is kind of tangenting, but, and how it did I forget what they're called. Essentially, you could pick up the recordings and progress the story as you wanted to.
The audio logs.
The audio logs, yeah. I think that was a really cool way of kind of... It was a little bit of... it was a lot of background information that it gave you, which kind of gave you the deeper picture into the story, which was always awesome to have kind of the lore. We like using that word nowadays, right?
Yeah. I mean, it rewards exploration and provides something for those people. And at the same time, if you don't want the story, you can just, run through the entire thing without caring about it.
Yep, and I think even when you pick one up, it's like you have to press a button to play the log. So, like, if you really don't want to listen to it, then you don't have to.
Yep. Our best friend Jonathan Blow reviewed this game. And he found that the moral choice between saving or harvesting the little sisters was flawed because it had no real impact on the game, which ultimately leads the player to think that the sisters were just mechanics of no real importance, which I guess goes back to the meta commentary before. Final big point. Did you know they were trying to make a movie about this for the longest time?
I did hear about that. Yeah, it was in the 2012, right? Somewhere around that time?
It started in 2008.
Oh, okay.
Take-Two announced a deal with Universal Studios back then. And it was actually supposed to come out in 2010. But there was a huge budget fight. Like, the director wanted $200 million, but the studio would only give them $80 million. The director wanted to be R-rated. The studio wanted to be PG-13 rated.
Oh, dude, it should have been R-rated.
I know.
It should've
So
been
they just
R-rated.
kind of canned it.
You know why? You know why it wanted to be R-rated? He wanted to kill someone with a Big Daddy with its drill, and he wanted blood to just go everywhere.
I gotta link you the fucking trailer. I'm pretty sure in the trailer, the Big Daddy drills a fucking hole in the guy's hand.
He does, yeah, he does.
In his hand, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does.
It's fucking disgusting.
That's one of the greatest trailers of all time, by the way, if you haven't seen the original BioShock trailer.
Yeah. Before we end off and do final notes, do you know how many copies this game sold?
Just the original?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I have to get it right, because I guessed the last one exactly on the dot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 3 million copies.
Wow, you have no faith in Ken Levine. I'm gonna let you guess one more time.
Oh, God. 15 million. Well, that
Okay.
seems too much. I think I have too much faith in Ken Levine. 8 million.
Close. 11 million.
11 million.
11
okay,
million. By comparison, this is why I have GTA 5 in my notes. By comparison, GTA 5 sold 75 million. So that's
okay.
That's a comparison right there. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Oh man, I don't know how I want to summarize this. I'll keep it short. Normally these are long. I'll keep it short. Great atmosphere, great gameplay, great story.
Okay.
And also, I'll add on one last thing.
Yeah.
Oh god, I'm trying to keep this short, but I just fucked up. Okay, anyways, I'll say the one last thing. It's one of those games that it has a deeper, I don't know the word, morality, sort of, like, it makes you think about what you do, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for games to do.
Okay. Cool. For me, I think it made me appreciate world building in a game, and it's really hard to come by that. And I, applaud Ken Levine for what he did. I wish he would do more stuff like this. Thanks for listening. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, Pocket Casts, and all your favorite podcast directories. Feel free to leave a comment, review, send us a tweet. We're at Podcast TRC on Instagram and Twitter, and TRC Podcast on Facebook. Feel free to give us a like, share, anything to help us survive in this world.
Survive.
Yeah, give us game suggestions, anything like that. We're always open to ideas.
Tell us you love Tristan Jung's soothing voice.
Yeah,
all that.
My Grady nasally voice.
Keep going.
But yeah, this has been episode 7. I've been one of your hosts, Tristan Jung.
I've been your other host, Albert Corsten.
And as always,
I'm really feeling it.
did I say thanks for tuning in?
Say it right now, and then you can edit it in if you need to.
Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, say it. Okay.
To all you loyal listeners, thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of TRC Podcast.